Welcome to Into the Inbox, presented by your friendly email expert, Nick Crawford. We'll review a marketing email, looking at subject line, layout, and content, finding what's good, okay, and not so brilliant, helping us improve our own emails. So let's dive into the inbox.
Welcome. Today we're going to look at something a little bit different. It's an email from a charity, the Princess Alice Hospice, an amazing organisation that support end-of-life care at their hospice in the south of England. The friendly from clearly shows where this email is being sent from, and we have a subject line of Mr. Crawford, here's your March update. Clearly the personalisation helps in terms of making sure this is specific to me. It's a newsletter send, and for our pre-header it goes on to take a look at our latest news from around the hospice. So it gives a general sense as to a kind of information from the newsletter, but what I would say is that for both the subject line and the pre-header, rather than being a generic here's some information, actually list out some of the content that's involved. Give the reader in the inbox an opportunity to recognise that there's some value, some interest to be had, and so to motivate that click with something specific. So looking at the email layout in desktop mode, we're greeted with this hero image, quite nicely done in terms of having that visual element blending into the colour of the first copy block. Just provides a little bit of visual polish. But this is a very large banner which doesn't actually give any information about the content of the email, and therefore is using a lot of real estate before we get into the main email content in itself. In terms of kind of the rest of the layout, we've got a number of sections which are divided with these visual separators. So for here we've got for people and for living. What I would say that these, relative to their image size and the copy blocks, are being lost slightly. So these could either be larger or actually have their own background full-length strip to more clearly delineate each area of the email itself. We've got a number of sections with copy image, a lot of copy links. So again, what I would say is, although they clearly show themselves by the colour contrast, actually having copy image and a clear call to action button again would just help divide this email up to make it more manageable to absorb little bite-sized chunks of information as I'm working through. A couple of image full-length banners which kind of work fine, some secondary stories, and then we've got our final article at the bottom here. Also worth noting, use of an animated GIF, again just to kind of lift the content to show a little bit more detail in the same real estate. So that's a really good technique to use. And then our footer, quite plain, quite simple, just to finish that email off. In mobile view, a couple of considerations. Our separators become even smaller and therefore even more lost. So again, having those in their own separate background to really help them shine and literally separate themselves from the rest of the email would help. We can see that we've got this orphaned line for one of our headlines. So looking at the mobile view, looking to see whether you can shorten the length of the line or increase it so you've got multiple lines of copy are probably sensible. And this image banner here, shrinking right down on what was already quite small font, is even more difficult to read. So I would suggest that that is either increased as an image size or to use HTML text rather than as an image to help that render properly with that smaller screen size. We can see that our 3 story block has stacked to a single column, so showing that this email template is mobile responsive, and everything else kind of sits quite nicely. The quite simple design means it's quite easy to navigate in that mobile view. There's a really good mix of content in this email, covering lots of different areas of the hospice life, and therefore something for everyone for the subscribers to get involved with. But because there is quite a lot, and actually this is sent out over a 2-month period, so there's 10 stories that are included here, helping the reader to navigate that, perhaps using the intro to spell out some of the key stories or some of the key areas of interest, maybe even using a bulleted list with a hyperlink so that the reader, for anything that immediately caught their eye, could click on that and avoid the scroll through the email to find that particular story. We've got a little bit of a lost story here. So after our lead story of Hannah and our clinical nurse specialist, we've got this little on here about watching Tracy, the hospice at home locality lead. But if I was just scanning that, I would quite easily miss that this was something different. Video content is really highly engaged with. So if you've got that to promote, I would definitely put that front and center. Use an animated GIF to show that it's a video, or an image with a play icon over the top to maximize the likelihood of getting a click and engagement with that content. And then across these kind of multiple stories, we've also got this kind of final piece, which is an introduction and an update from the new chief executive. This seems slightly separate from the general news and updates of the hospice. And I do wonder whether that maybe should have been an email in its own right, actually allowing a fuller form in terms of what the new chief executive is going to do, kind of laying out their plans and their invite for comment and feedback. In dark mode, this email works pretty well. We lose that visual effect between the hero image and the background of the first content block, but it doesn't look wrong. And actually the separators, because you've now got a white block against a black background, do work a little bit better. The only downside is it's a little blocky now in look and feel because of the background colours of some of those images, but overall nothing that's wrong or unreadable as it stands. So, our 3 takeaways from today. Number 1, subject lines. Ensure that they promote and highlight the key content within the email. Motivate that click rather than making it simply a generic welcome to our newsletter. Secondly, ensure that you don't hide stories and content by making it an addition to an existing story or content block. So everything needs its own promotion, needs to have its own ability to be seen. And thirdly, look at how many stories you're putting into your newsletter. Is there too much? Does it make it difficult for the reader to decide what they want to view? And if that's the case, then prioritize your stories or look to increase the frequency of your newsletter send. And additionally, look at whether any of those stories are important enough to actually be their own dedicated send. Thanks a lot. I've been Nick Crawford, and join me next week when we dive into the inbox.